Jason, if you're ready to go, I'll start the clock as soon as you step in the round pen.
All right.
And let's give Jason Irwin a big hand all the way from Port Elgin, Ontario. 45 minutes starting now.
Well, thank you for chasing my horse away. Are you trying to get me killed? Well, that's really tickled to be here. I was lucky enough to be out here last year. Always really enjoy this event, all the folks here. Surprising how many faces I start to recognize after a couple trips out this part of the woods. And other than that, I guess we'll kind of go ahead and get rolling here. I might give this guy just a second to look around. If he's just going to run around a lot, I may push on him just a little bit. But at the same time, if he just needs a second, I'm also happy to go ahead and do that too. And so just one sec here. I'm just going to see if I kind of can't catch his attention. Wasn't too bad. Obviously, I would have liked if he didn't keep on going. I'm just going to kind of step out here a few times, trying to catch his eye. Nope, not there. Now, usually, that was okay. And if he wants to truck on by me, that's fine. I am just trying to catch his attention once in a while here and there. I think this colt, just from the looks of it, has a fair bit of go to him. So he's probably going to be just a little bit busy here for a second. Again, I could push him around, and I very well will here in a minute. Having said that, though, if it was possible just to grab him, I would do that if I'm being totally honest here. So again, I just like to kind of catch his attention again. He's got just a little bit more go to him. Nope. Change this up just a hair here. So I'm just again. One thing about this fellow that I would say is a good sign is that he does step out. I just wish he would find a different time to step out.
I got to tell you, Jason, this was my pick when I saw you guys going around getting him because he was so forward.
Fine, you can have him.
Don't you threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. I am just going to move him around a little bit here then, just because he is kind of just not paying quite as much. No, you don't pick the direction. There we go. So, obviously you can see now I'm just going to take and move him around a bit, try to get him paying attention. If I'm being totally honest with you, I'm trying to not show off my roping abilities, mainly because I don't have any. When I was a little kid about this tall, everybody says he's a really good roper. The only problem is I never got any better from that point onward. If this was the Old West and you were out stealing horses, you would really hope that I was the guy that had the lariat that was going to hang you, because you would probably die of old age before I got it over the tree. Again here. Again, when he just kind of steps towards me, I'm trying to give him little signals that he can come in here. Now, actually, yes, if you want to put that on, you go right ahead. I'm not even going to stop you. That one, so just push him around a little bit more. Again, he's just kind of seeing the sights. If this guy was at home, I would take him and just leave him in the round pen probably for 30 minutes to play around, to see everything, just so that I didn't really have to be involved. Having said that, obviously we don't have 30 minutes here, so I'm just going to get ready here again. Again, he's not really showing me a whole lot of attention. I don't think that he's scared, it's just that he's kind of got a lot going on. Now this time, now between the two eyes, if I have the choice, I would rather he kind of looked up and kind of caught me with his left as opposed to his right, just because I'm going to be on his left to get the halter on, so it might make life just a hair easier if he would take and kind of hook on that side as opposed to the other side. Again here, he's just not showing me a whole lot of attention, so I'm just going to kind of keep putting a little pressure on here and there. He's looking at chewing a bit, which isn't exactly the be-all, end-all, but it's better than not. Just going to, no. I'm just going to ask this colt to keep at this consistent trot. I'm not going to harp on about it a whole lot, but he's just sort of doing his own thing, so I just figure I'm going to give him one little simple job to do, and that little simple job is going to be to trot around this round pen. Of course, a simpler job would be stand there and let me catch you, but he's not picking that option. Now, I'm just going to try to draw you in a hair. Not the gate, you sneaky bugger. He was like, ah, yes, your horse whispering so fine, I shall come to you. Nah, I just want it out. So I'm going to draw him around again. I'm going to kind of, again, look for a spot where he catches me. No, I don't want him changing eyes if I can help it. If anyone is eating chips, eat them quietly. Ta-da! So what I'm going to do now, this colt, as you can see, was moving around and not really paying a lot of attention to me. So what I'm going to do is try to get him in the mind frame that the solution to every answer is me. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to draw this colt up to me quite a bit and then make a point of really petting on him. Because when he feels any stress or anything just not going quite right, I want his automatic decision to be, come back, see me, and I'll make it right, more or less. So I'm just kind of moving around here, and I want him drawn up to me, as he's doing right here. Then I'm going to stop once in a while, just kind of rub and pet on him. Another thing I'm going to do is every time he looks somewhere, I'm going to go the opposite direction. So he's looking just a shade at the door, so I'm going to go the other way, draw him to me, and then just pet on him again. Every time he looks one way, I go the opposite way. Right there, he's looking at the door again. I'm going to pull him this way because I want him to get his focus on me, not the outside distractions. And again, it's sometimes sort of interesting, I guess you could say, how much you can get one to want to be with you in a relatively short frame of time if you just keep showing them what you want. So again, I'm kind of lifting myself up a little bit here too when he comes up to me, just because I want him stopping correctly. I don't want him just coming to me and bumping into me. So now what I'm going to do is just have him go around me just a little bit. And then I'm going to release as soon as that horse moves its feet, even a little bit forward, even though, being totally honest, that was probably more sideways. And I'll just send him around me. As soon as he takes one step, and again, I'm just going to release off that. So when I get them circling, I really don't care in the beginning about getting them to really go around me as much as I do is just keep taking that one step at a time. So every time he takes that one step, I take all pressure away. Once they get the idea how to go, then it's relatively easy to keep them going. I'm always starting swinging, a couple swings without touching the horse. If they'll move from that, then I don't make any kind of a contact at all. So that time right there, I didn't even have to spin the rope, and he took a step forward.
He was just looking for the carrot in your shirt pocket, I think.
Sorry?
He was just looking for the carrot in your shirt pocket when he moved up, wasn't he?
Yeah. Don't take it away from what I'm doing here. I want this to look magical.
His name is Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. He does kind of look like a Bugs Bunny. So this time here, he's going out. He's wanting to keep going, so I'm just kind of letting him. Now that time there, I really didn't ask him to come to me, but at the same time, if he's already kind of getting the idea to come to me. So that time, now I'm going to do a whole bunch of these little starts and releases, kind of like what you see here. I'll ask him to go, take the pressure away, and then ask him to go again right before he gets stopped. And you kind of see after a minute, he starts to kind of go around me a little bit without me having to ask anymore. And one thing you're probably going to see me do quite a bit over the course of the weekend is touch on something and then leave and do something else. I don't typically stay on any one thing real long because I find like I make a little bit of progress, but if I stay there too long, then things sometimes go downhill and I have to fix problems. I'd rather just touch on something, get a little bit of success, then do something else and give that horse a break from what I was initially starting on. So again, now this time here, I'm not even really swinging the rope. I'm just kind of guiding him where I want to go. And every time he takes that little step, I just stop again. Going to go again here. That time was a lot nicer. He stepped out a lot freer. Just going to pet on him again. Step out again. Good. And on this particular side, this fella does tend to kind of keep his hind end just a little bit away from me. He's staying just a little bit straighter. I really don't care at the moment, but over the course of the weekend, I'm going to try to get him to move around me with a little bit of a softer arc in his body. I just kind of keep picking up here. Every time I feel any tension on the lead rope, instead of pulling harder, I'm just going to start putting a little pressure on with the end of the lead. And as soon as he finds it, just like that, again, I'm going to let go. Now I'm going to draw back a little bit because, again, I want him thinking that the answer to all life's problems are to come to me. The only time I really don't want this is when maybe one was bucking or acting up a little bit. Then obviously I don't want that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide this rope down here. I'm going to feed this out just a little bit. And I'm going to try to catch it. Yep, you're right. This is definitely one for Cade. You can. And that's, I'm just going to let this colt carry this.
He's just bluffing. He's just bluffing.
It's so easy to say that when you're not here.
It is so much easier to say that from my comfortable chair right here.
Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of let this guy go around, carry that little bit of tension. And then I'm just going to stop every little bit, pet on him again. Then I might start shuffling this around. Now, if he was to be too bothered about this, I would get a second rope just so I didn't have to be quite as close to him. But if he'll tolerate this and not go too worried, and I'm just putting a little pressure on there, just letting him feel it. And then I'm just going to release. And I'll do it again. Now, something I might do too is get him ready more for the back cinch. Now, he might act out a little bit more here. And again, I got to be real careful with my positioning on this one. I don't want to be where I could get caught with the back leg. So just move that around a little bit more. Let him feel that pressure. As soon as he takes a few steps that are fairly relaxed, right away I let go again. I'm getting back into this ticklish area, which again, I got to be darn careful I don't get myself kicked in that area. So I'm just going to stop on that one for a second. Kind of licked and chewed there a little bit. Release on that. Another thing I can start to do is move the rope around as if I was getting ready to rope off him, because I believe we do have to maybe rope or drag something here. When I'm doing this part, I make a point of being very nonchalant about it. You're not going to see me staring in his eyes, because you can think if somebody walked up to you and went like this, glared at you and went whoosh, with a rope, you're probably going to be a little bit concerned what their intentions are. Where right here, I do a lot of this. I'm kind of looking off in the distance, even though I am looking at him out of the corner of my eye, just so that he thinks this is no big deal. I'm not worried about it, therefore he probably doesn't need to be worried about it either. And a lot of folks here will know this already, but what a horse learns out of one eye, it does not automatically learn out of the other. So I'm kind of making a point, I'm going to work on one side at a time, get him used to the rope swinging around on one side, getting used to one eye, then move to the other. Then what I'm going to do is stand and have this go across the front of him. Now he's seeing it out of both. Eventually I'm going to get swinging it over his ears as well, but I'm not going to worry too much about that part just yet. Now I'm just going to ask him to step around me again. And you can kind of see now he's moving a heck of a lot freer than he was earlier. Now I'm going to yield this horse's hindquarters, kind of like so. So to yield the hindquarters, all I'm going to do is step towards his hind end, light little tug on the rope, try to swing his hip away from me. Start out here, horse moves around, and he gets a little close, so this is slightly tricky at this stage. But I'm going to get him going, then I'm going to yield the hind end away, just kind of like so. So that's really what I'm after there. I'm just going to try it on the other side a little bit, have him step around me. Now this side, I didn't maybe spend quite as much time on, and he is just a shade stickier on this side, so it seems at this stage at least. But there he goes.
30 minutes to go, Jason. Half an hour left.
All right. Now I'm going to yield his hindquarters, kind of like so. And I'll put my hand up like that just so they don't swing around and bump into me. Because I am working close enough to this guy that in some ways it's not reasonable to expect him to do it all perfectly. And if he gets a little into my space, I'm honestly not going to lose any sleep about it at this stage. The only way I would be worried is if he was being really rude about it and I felt like he maybe had a little bit of dirtiness in him, which I definitely do not feel that he does. So that right there, he's yielded his hindquarters a few times on each side. I'm just going to go back to this part here where I kind of draw him to me and kind of got the slack in the rope, just seeing if he really is watching me. So pretty happy with that part here. Good. Thank you. So I'm just going to get over here and I'm going to grab one of these tarps. And probably a lot of you have desensitized horses to tarps before, but I'll just run through the steps really quick the way I do them. I think it's really, really important to understand one particular concept, and that's that horses really are not all that scared of things that move away from them. The idea behind this being, a horse is a prey animal, but if something is leaving, obviously it's not coming to eat them. So I tend to do a lot of this stuff. I'll back away and have the horse follow whatever it is I'm trying to get him used to. That tends to build up a lot of confidence in one, because instead of being scared of the scary object, they actually start to get curious about it. So you kind of see here this colt, he's not very worried, and if anything, he's just a little bit interested in what's going on. You'll see him reach out his nose from time to time, kind of smell on it. Now what I'm going to do is just touch him on the shoulder lightly with this, and then take it away right away. And I'll do this maybe once or twice, and then I'm going to draw back and draw him to it again. So again, the exercise ends with him coming to the tarp as opposed to the tarp coming at him. Rub a little farther back, and then draw away again. Again, if this was a horse that was really pushy, I wouldn't maybe be in quite as close at this point here, but this colt here is being very good-minded about this, so I don't mind being in a little tighter. I tend actually to work in the beginning a little bit closer to my horses, maybe than some trainers do, just because I feel like I have a little bit more control when I'm close as opposed to when I'm farther away. When you're farther away, you probably are a little safer, but you don't have as much control, and you also can't get your horse out of a jam quite as easy. So there's just a little, it's not necessarily right or wrong, there's just a little bit of trade-offs, and no matter what you do with these guys. So I'm happy with that. Same deal as before, you want to work both sides. So even though I'm already done one side, I'm going to treat this like I'm just starting over again. Now this
Just a
side here,
reminder, everyone, the judging sheets that the judges are using here to judge the trainers today in your program are on page number 33. And they are doing a People's Choice Award. So if you guys are here for all 3 days or even for one day and you're watching along, it'd be good to see how the crowd would look at these sheets and judge these trainers as they're going through.
and I don't want to put any pressure on anybody, but I've always felt that whoever wears a teal shirt should probably win.
Probably a free hat for a good judging card at your booth or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I just kind of go down here on this guy. He's pretty good with that part. I'm just going to take, and now I'm going to put this over both sides of him. I'm not going to do a ton here, but just enough that I feel like he can sort of tolerate it. And this I find really handy. If I do this stuff first, I find it's usually easier to get the saddle on just because this is probably a little scarier than what at least the pad would be. And if I'm a little careless putting my saddle on, at least I feel this way here, the colt can probably tolerate it. So I'm going to have him move around, just carrying this. I'm not going to ask him to go any faster than a walk. And if he was to get spooked by it, what I'm going to do is step back and take it off right away because I don't want him having a bad experience. If he needs to kind of get away from it, I can live with that, but I don't want to let go and have him run around kicking this thing and then having a problem that I created that I then have to undo. But I'm pretty happy with that part there. I think that's enough on that section. So I'm just going to go back here. Again, every opportunity I get to kind of pet on him and have him thinking he's my friend, then I feel like we're on the right track. So I'm going to let him wear this bridle around if I can get it on him gracefully. Now, instead of just tossing the bridle on, I tend to do it in a 3-step process. One I do is take the lead rope like so, rub on, and go over the horse's ears like that. That way there, if the horse throws his head up in the air from the pressure on the ears, he's not going to throw his head and bang the bit in his teeth and have a bad experience. So I tend to do this with the ears. It gets them used to the head stall going over above them. Another thing I'm going to do is teach him to open his mouth from the very beginning. So I'm going to slide my finger in the corner of his mouth. He's not loving that part. The moment he opens it, I'm just going to let go right away. Again, he is obviously just a shade touchy about his face. So I'm going to keep my hand flat against him here. And the moment he opens his mouth, I'm going to let go again. And I don't care if he's a little bit silly about it. The moment he opens, immediately I'm going to take away because I feel like that other stuff will go away. There. Now, the one last step I mentioned is it's a 3-step deal. Sometimes I'll just kind of brush my hand down their face a little bit, and he's actually fairly touchy about his nose. So I'm just going to go down it a few times like that just to know I can get in the area. But I don't tend to fiddle around in their mouth area a ton just because I don't want to look for an argument. Again, I'm looking for little things to reward, not things that we can fight about. Send him around again. Hindquarters over, keep the head away from me. Now, I don't know if he'll let me slip this on just yet, but I'm going to extend the head stall fairly loose. Must have been riding a big-headed horse last time because it is fairly loose. I'm going to slide this over here, under the chin. Again, he might just be a little touchy. And now I want to hurry up and get that head stall done up to the point that that bit is going to stay in his mouth, sort of like so. So that's on him there. I'm just going to give him a second. It's not done all the way up, but it's where it isn't coming off. And you can see I am just making his day with this part. He's saying, we were becoming fast friends, then you did this, I'm going to get you for this later. So again, I'm just going to let him walk around for a second. I'm going to go back to just playing with my groundwork and give him something else to think about. This bit could maybe go up one notch higher. I'll just give it a second.
Oh, that's not allowed.
Yes, we ain't kissing me just quite yet. One notch snugger. I don't want to get my hand in the coils there just because he might not be too thrilled with that and pull me around a little bit. There we go.
He just figured out that blue is his favorite flavor.
I told you the shirt was very attractive. So I'm just going to take now and start messing around with the saddle pad. I'm not going to sneak it on, really. I'm just going to put it on, move it around, and treat this like it's going to happen. I'm going to make a point of throwing it just a little bit high and having it fall down like that, just because when I go to put the saddle on, the saddle I ride in is fairly heavy, and I got to give it a little bit of a oomph to get it up there. So by kind of letting this pad go up and down a little bit like that, then it kind of gets them where they can tolerate me kind of throwing that pad up. Excuse me, I should say the saddle up. Also, I'm kind of making a point of tapping around on the pad, just because unless this horse has ever worn a blanket or something, he's probably not used to feeling pressure through something else. So right there, he's getting a chance to feel my hand pressure, even though it's through the saddle pad instead of directly on him. Just gonna draw this boy over here.
What's the over and under on him bucking when you saddle him? What are the odds?
What's that?
What is the odds he's going to buck when you saddle him?
What's that one Western movie? Fair to Midland?
That's about right.
Now I'm just gonna hold on to this, and I'm gonna hawk it back off if he tries to jump.
A lot of the time when I was starting a lot of colts for that first saddling, I'd always make sure that I use my wife's saddle.
That's a heck of a good idea. I might start doing that. Wrecked a lot of good saddles.
I got that just a little bit crooked.
Snaffle gives them something to think about while the cinch comes up anyway.
I want to make sure I'm not too abrupt here, but I'm also not going to waste a ton of time in this area. Kind of make sure my feet are out of the coils. I think I got my answer. Now, one thing I'm going to do, if possible, I'm going to keep this colt's head up. Oh, broken watch. I'm going to get the back cinch using my foot. I'm going to do it just snug enough that he can feel it, but not where he can get a back leg in. Now I'm going to keep my hand up here and try to have this colt move around me without getting his head down. Now you do have to be a little fast on your feet for this part. Now at no point here do I want him to yield his hindquarters because I don't want him facing me. But at the same time, I'm just going to keep sending him around with his head up, because if he can't get his head down, in theory, he can't buck. Now, he might anyways, but this way here, I get to start with the cinch without doing it too snug, and then I can just go ahead and start tightening it one notch at a time, kind of as I go around here. One thing everybody says about colts bucking because they feel the cinch pressure for the first time. I've always kind of felt one of the reasons they buck too is because they're not used to breathing with something tight around them. It'd be like somebody walking up to you and giving you a great big bear hug right away. It kind of takes your breath away. This way here, by putting the rope around their belly first, I kind of show them that they can breathe, even though they feel that pressure. And this way here, I'm doing my best to try to talk him out of bucking if he'll let me. Now, he very well might do it anyways, in which case, being quite honest, I'm not going to lose any sleep about it. But if I can stop it from happening, I'm happy. Now, when I get an opportunity here, I'm just going to let that rope go out a little bit. All right. Again, I don't want to be directly in front. Now, I'm going to make a little change here. He kind of pulled that bridle over his ear. That's pretty good. Now, I am going to switch lead ropes. I'm going to kind of make a point of not being too close to him just in case he kind of comes a little bit undone here. Oh, that fell. I'm going to pick this up, but I don't want to lean down in front of him.
15 minutes left to go, Jason.
Right on.
How do you bring your saddles when you're flying from Ontario or someplace? Do you take them as carry-ons, or do you have to check them? Or?
No, by paying a ridiculous amount of money for oversized luggage. So I'm pretty darn tickled with that part. And again, there's still a very good real possibility he might hump up a little bit. I'm going to send him the other way, actually. Now, if he bucks,
smooth.
I'm going to give a heave-ho on the lead rope here and try to talk him out of it as best I can. I find the two spots they typically buck the most are when they're first saddled and when they first lope off for the first time. So again, though, I'm not going to lose a ton of sleep if he does, but I do tend to do what you see here and have a long line on them, just because I don't want them running around. Even if they do jump around a bit, I don't want them crashing into the panels and hurting themselves or any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to swing him around like so and send him the other direction. This is the one part where earlier I was bringing the horse to me a lot. This is maybe the one time you got to watch if you've done that, just because sometimes they will then try to get a little bit too close to you. I don't want to get him over that line. If he wants to go that way, we'll try to lope off this way. I'm pretty tickled with that part right there. Now again, now that he's gone the one way, I'm pretty happy with that part right there too. Now this is actually a little bit of a training opportunity. I can pull on that and teach him to kind of come around like so. So I'm happy with that part. Now I'm just going to go ahead and switch lead ropes again, just because this one is just long enough. It's kind of a pain to manage. Again, I don't want to go ahead and get down right in front of him too quickly, just because if he was ever going to buck and spook from the saddle, I don't want to get hit. I'm going to get that watch out of there. How much time do I have roughly there?
You have 11 minutes
11.
and 50 seconds.
All right, oh, thank you.
49 seconds.
Thank you for being so precise. Something else I might just kind of mess with here. I'll just kind of get this guy. I might not get on, but I'm just going to kind of move stuff around here a little bit and pretend like I'm about to. And if that bothers them, basically, I would rather know that it bothered him now instead of when I'm trying to get on him for the first time. You'll see me move the stirrups around a little bit, kind of bump into him a little, shuffle this around. Same on this side. I'm going to draw his head to me when he tries to walk off on me. Again, he's just a little rude about his head, so I'm trying not to bother with it too much. I'm just going to kind of put pressure on his neck as opposed to the lead rope. If you're trying to do this exercise where you jump up and down, you feel like you can't do it, drink 3 coffees first, don't go to the washroom and do this. You can jump up and down exactly like this for a really long time.
He just made a statement there, too, of what he thinks of everything.
Now I'm just going to mess around here for 1 second. Now I'm going to just play with this. I'm going to get this colt where he's carrying this around, just because I find that if one is going to buck a little bit, just putting light pressure on and then taking it away gets them used to where they kind of have their hindquarters scooted under themselves while they're wearing a saddle. I don't really want to be on this side, so I'm just going to try to be fleet of foot here. And honestly, I don't feel I have to do that very long, because if there's going to be a big eruption, usually it's right away. I'll just kind of drop that up there. So he's kind of tolerating that part. Not too bad. Now I want to give him just a second just to kind of relax and be with me again. I don't want to just pop from one thing right to the next, him thinking I'm just going to keep on going every time. He kind of does some good for me. So I'm just going to give him these little 30-second breaks here and there, kind of rub and pet on him. That's pretty decent. And again, I'm just kind of popping up and down a little bit here. If he wants to get upset, again, that's not the end of the world. There. So right there, he stood while I kind of lifted myself up. So right away, I kind of quit. And I'm not pulling on his face a lot just because he is a little touchy with it, but I am putting my hand just at the top of his neck and getting him kind of used to me putting this weight here and there. Why did it suddenly go so damn silent in here? Thank you again. It's nice to be amongst friends out here.
I think you found your forward button.
I think I got her. Pet, 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 pet. Pet like your life depends on it, because it probably does. And one thing I'm going to do here just a little bit is that saddle, with all the shuffling around, did move just a hair. So I'm just going to put it back in position. And that's something I find sometimes the saddles will get out of position just because the colts maybe shuffle around a little bit. And you want to make sure that they don't get in a spot where it's going to pinch them a little bit or do something you wish they hadn't done. And again, this might be an area here I'm just going to stick with him. And as long as he's no worse than that, the moment he stops moving, that's when I'm going to step off. Because I'm trying to teach him the key to getting rid of me is to stand still. I think we all know the key to getting rid of me is not standing still, but that's what we're going for.
Well, Kate, do you think he's gonna?
What's that?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. Well, we were just talking about whether or not he's going to buck. I don't think
No,
so.
whether he's gonna get on.
Oh. You got 5.5 minutes to put a ride on that Colt, Jason.
Cade
Well,
says he's not
if
gonna
I
buck.
remember correctly, one of the judges is a bronc rider, so technically I need 8 seconds.
Not a bronc rider. He'll be watching.
Oh, I know.
Although I did see that judge get bucked off in Manitoba one year, so that was pretty fun. And then he beat me in the trainer challenge, so that was even less fun.
That's looking pretty good here.
The Colt has been rode. We can all go home. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your attention up to this point. And honestly, with the 5.5 minutes, you all thought I was going to get on right, didn't you? And what I'm going to do now is just step around. I'm going to pull very lightly on this horse's mouth because chances are I will ride him with a snaffle. So right there when he gives, I'm just going to release on him. And I'm just going to walk this little circle, putting pressure on here and there. Another thing I might do, I'm going to throw this lead rope up over his neck. I gotta be just a little careful here because he is a little touchier on this side. I'm going to slip this behind him. And I would like him to find the way out of this little fix that he's in. And as soon as he gives any turn left, there, I'm going to give a little release there. Just wait on him a second. I don't really want to put any more pressure on him. And if he's completely stuck with this, I will walk around the far side and give him a little tug. There. So he gave on that one. I would like him to get all the way turned if I could, but I might have to just help him here in a second. There. I keep saying there like we're going to do the right thing. One of these times it might be right. Actually, I'm just going to make a quick adjustment here. And I'm just going to play around on this side for a minute longer. That was maybe just one step too far for him.
3 minutes now. Okay, 3 minutes, Jason.
I'm going to switch here. Play around on this side a little bit. A little bit of light pressure and then release. A little bit of light pressure and then release. And this is pretty small steps here. That's pretty good. And honestly, that part there, I'm happy with. So I'm just going to take now, I'm just going to hawk his saddle off. So I'll give it just a second. I'd like him to stand a little bit more still, if I'm being honest, but at the same time, I'm not going to lose any sleep about it. If he needs to move at this pace, I can live with that. Any faster than this, and I would probably stop him. Right there. And then pull that off pretty gentle. Now, when I take the snaffle off, it's pretty important that I don't pull it out of his mouth, that I let him release it. So what I do here is slide forward and up, and then I wait on him to lick and chew, and then I let it fall out like that, as opposed to pull it down. He's like, this is the stupidest expo I have ever been to. So what I'm going to kind of just mess with now, I really want this guy, I feel like we've done a fair amount, first bridle, first saddle. If we really want to use our imagination, first ride, but that might be pushing my luck.
1 minute to go, Jason.
So just on the last minute or so, I'm just going to go back to this stuff here, just where I kind of bring him to me and pet on him, just because, again, I want him thinking the answer to life's problems are sort of with me, and if there's any bind that we're in, we can kind of figure it out together. So this is why in the very beginning I did not do a lot of running around. Quite honestly, I did more than I would have actually loved to, because I feel like I would rather get a line on them and get a bit of a connection started here and sort of get a bit of a partnership going, as opposed to me sending them around a lot. Not that there is anything wrong with that, everybody. That's fine. But just my personal deal, also we do a lot of liberty training. So I think probably that sort of snuck its way into my Colt starting program quite a bit, which is a lot of this type of thing, bringing our horses to us. And that's kind of a lot of times how we get one where they go around with no tack on. It's that they always want to come back to us, and that's how we kind of teach them some stuff that I think is pretty neat. Is that about?
You have 4 seconds left.
4 seconds? Anyone want any words of wisdom in 4 seconds?
Your 4 seconds is gone.
Okay.
That's your time,
Thank you
Jason.
very much.
Thank you so much.